My husband tried to have me committed. But the psychiatrist believed me. The psychiatrist looked up from her notepad, her gray eyes steady and calm. Mrs. Chen, can you tell me what day it is? Tuesday, October 15th, I said, my voice hoarse from crying. The restraints on my wrists had left red marks, and the hospital gown smelled like industrial bleach. It's 2:30 in the afternoon, and my husband is lying. Dr. Martinez, that's what her badge said, nodded slowly. She was maybe 50, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun, and she hadn't once looked at me like I was crazy. Unlike the EMTs. Unlike the police officers who'd shown up at my door 3 hours ago. Unlike Mark, who'd stood in our kitchen wringing his hands and telling them I'd been having episodes. Your husband says you've been experiencing delusions, Dr. Martinez said. Moving things around the house and forgetting you did it. Having conversations that never happened. Because he's been gaslighting me. The words tasted bitter. 4 months. Maybe longer. I didn't even realize it until last week when I found the recordings. Her pen stilled. Recordings? I took a shaky breath. This was it, my one chance to make someone believe me before Mark had me locked away in some facility. Before he got his hands on my inheritance from Mom. Before he convinced everyone I was unfit to raise Emma and Jake. My mother died 8 months ago. Lung cancer. She left me everything, the house in Portland, her investment accounts, about $2.3 million total. My throat felt raw. Mark was excited at first. We talked about paying off our mortgage, setting up college funds for the kids. But then something changed. Changed how? Little things. I'd put my keys on the kitchen counter and find them in the refrigerator. Mark would act concerned, ask if I was feeling okay. I'd make plans with my sister Julie, write them on the calendar, and Mark would say I never told him. That there was nothing written down. I shifted in the hard plastic chair, my hospital bracelet catching the fluorescent light. Patient, Sarah Chen. Age, 34. Reason for admission, psychiatric evaluation, involuntary hold. I started questioning myself, I continued. Mark was so patient about it, so worried. He'd hug me and say stress was making me forgetful. That losing Mom was affecting me more than I realized. He convinced me to quit my job at the marketing firm in July. Said I needed time to grieve, to focus on the kids. Dr. Martinez made a note. But you said you found recordings? Last Tuesday. I was looking for Emma's birth certificate in Mark's desk, she needed it for soccer registration, and I found his phone. His old phone, the iPhone 12 he said he'd recycled. My hands were trembling now. There were voice memos on it. Dozens of them. All labeled with dates and times. What kind of voice memos? The memory made my stomach clench. Him talking to himself. Planning it all out. Moved Sarah's car keys to the laundry room at 6:15 a.m., I recited. She'll find them when she's looking for coffee filters. Called Julie and canceled lunch, told her Sarah wasn't feeling well. Sarah will think she forgot to call. Dr. Martinez set down her pen. For the first time since I'd been brought into the sterile room, I felt a flicker of hope. There were 47 recordings, I whispered. 47 times he documented gaslighting me. The last one was from yesterday morning. He said it was almost time for the final phase. Dr. Martinez leaned forward, her expression sharpening. Sarah, did you bring these recordings with you? Do you still have access to them? My heart sank. That's the thing, when I confronted Mark about the phone yesterday, he denied everything. Said I was imagining it. This morning I went back to look for it and the desk drawer was empty. I pressed my palms against my temples. He must have destroyed it after I found it. And now I sound exactly like what he's been telling everyone, a paranoid woman making up elaborate stories. What exactly did your husband tell the responding officers? That I'd barricaded myself in our bedroom, screaming about hidden cameras and secret recordings. That I'd been talking to people who weren't there. The words felt like poison in my mouth. But that's not what happened. I locked the door because I was scared of him. I was on the phone with my sister Julie, trying to explain what I'd discovered. Mark must have heard me talking and spun it into something else when he called 911. Dr. Martinez made another note. Has your husband ever been physically violent with you? No. Never. He's too smart for that. I laughed bitterly. Mark's a financial advisor. He deals with wealthy clients going through divorces all the time. He knows exactly how these things work. Psychological abuse is harder to prove than bruises. And with Mom's money involved. I trailed off. Tell me about the money. The inheritance isn't just sitting in a bank account. Mom had a trust set up. I can't access the principal until I'm 35, that's in 4 months. But there's a clause. I swallowed hard. If I'm declared mentally incompetent, my spouse becomes the trustee. He'd control everything. The psychiatrist's pen stopped moving entirely. Mark's been researching involuntary commitment laws. I found printouts in his briefing case 2 weeks ago, articles about how long someone can be held, what constitutes grounds for a psychiatric hold. When I asked him about it, he said he was worried about me and wanted to understand my options for getting help. Have you told anyone else about your suspicions? Family members? Friends? I tried. But Mark's been laying the groundwork for months. My voice cracked. He told my sister I'd been having memory problems. He mentioned to our neighbors that I'd been acting strange since Mom died. Last week he even called my old boss, supposedly to check on how I was doing, but really to plant seeds about my mental state. What did he tell your boss? That I'd been having trouble concentrating before I quit. That he was concerned about me being alone with the kids all day. Rebecca, my former boss, she called me yesterday all worried, asking if I was seeing a therapist. I clenched my fists. Don't you see? He's been isolating me, making everyone think I'm unstable. Now when I try to tell the truth, it just sounds like paranoid delusions. Dr. Martinez stood up and walked to the small window overlooking the hospital parking lot. Sarah, I want you to think carefully. Besides the recordings you can no longer access, is there any other evidence of your husband's behavior? Anything concrete? I closed my eyes, trying to push through the fog of panic and exhaustion. Then it hit me. The calendar, I said suddenly. Our kitchen calendar. I take photos of it every month for my phone's backup, just habit, so I don't forget appointments. If Mark was lying about me not writing things down, if he was erasing my handwriting. I looked up at Dr. Martinez with desperate hope. My phone. They took it when the police brought me in, but those photos should still be in my cloud storage. For the first time since this nightmare began, Dr. Martinez smiled. Dr. Martinez returned to her seat, pulling out her phone. I'm going to have someone retrieve your belongings. We need to look at those photos immediately. She paused, studying my face. Sarah, I have to ask, have you considered that your husband might not be working alone? The question hit me like ice water. What do you mean? Financial manipulation of this scale, especially involving trusts and mental competency laws, it often requires professional assistance. Has your husband introduced you to any new lawyers recently? Doctors? Financial advisors? My mouth went dry. Dr. Reeves. Who is Dr. Reeves? Mark's been pushing me to see him for weeks. Said he's a psychiatrist who specializes in grief counseling. Mark claimed his colleague Janet recommended him after her mother died. I felt sick. The appointment is scheduled for Friday. Was scheduled. Mark said Dr. Reeves had a cancellation and could fit me in. Dr. Martinez's expression darkened. Have you met this Dr. Reeves? No, but Mark showed me his website. Very professional looking. Office in the medical district downtown. The pieces were clicking together in my head. Oh God. Mark was going to have me evaluated by someone who was already convinced I was unstable, wasn't he? It's possible. What about the lawyer handling your mother's trust? Richardson and Associates. Mom used them for years. I gripped the arms of my chair. But Mark said we should switch to his firm's legal team once I turn 35. He said Richardson charges too much for simple trust management. Sarah, I need you to think. Has Mark been documenting your alleged episodes in writing? Keeping a journal, sending emails to family members about his concerns? The realization crashed over me. The emails to Emma's teacher. Last month, Mark sent Mrs. Patterson an email about me being forgetful about school events. He CC'd me on it, said he wanted to make sure nothing slipped through the cracks while I was grieving. What else? He's been texting my sister Julie screenshots of our grocery list with items crossed out, claiming I wrote things down twice or forgot what we needed. My hands were shaking again. Julie mentioned it last week, said she was worried I was more scattered than I realized. Dr. Martinez made rapid notes. Has he taken you to your regular family doctor recently? 3 weeks ago. I've been having headaches, probably from stress, and Mark insisted Dr. Yamamoto run a full workup. Blood tests, cognitive screening, the works. I felt the trap closing around me. Mark was so attentive during the appointment, answering questions for me when I paused to think. Dr. Yamamoto kept looking between us with this concerned expression. What did the test show? Everything came back normal, but Dr. Yamamoto recommended I consider counseling. She said grief can manifest in unexpected ways. I laughed bitterly. Mark was so supportive, said he'd already found someone perfect for me. Dr. Reeves. Dr. Reeves. I met her eyes. This was all planned, wasn't it? The medical documentation, the witness testimonies, everything building to today. Before Dr. Martinez could answer, there was a sharp knock on the door. A nurse entered carrying a plastic bag with my belongings. Thank you, Janet, Dr. Martinez said, taking the bag. She pulled out my phone and handed it to me. Can you access those calendar photos? My fingers fumbled with the passcode. The phone seemed to take forever to load my cloud storage. Finally, the photos appeared, months of kitchen calendar images stretching back to January. I scrolled to September and felt my blood turn cold. It's blank, I whispered. September 15th, I know I wrote lunch with Julie, 1 p.m., because I remember using a red pen. But in this photo, that square is completely empty. Dr. Martinez leaned over to look. What about other entries you remember making? I scrolled frantically through the images. August 23rd, I'd written Emma's soccer tryouts, 4 p.m. in my handwriting, but the photo showed the space blank. July 9th, movie night with kids, was gone. He didn't just erase them, I said, the horror washing over me. He took new photos and replaced them in my cloud storage. Mark has all my passwords, I never thought. I looked up at Dr. Martinez with growing panic. If he can manipulate my digital records this easily, what else has he changed? Dr. Martinez was already reaching for her desk phone. I'm calling our IT security specialist. If your husband has been manipulating your digital footprint, we need to document everything before he can do more damage. She paused mid-dial. Sarah, what other accounts does Mark have access to? Banking, social media, email? My stomach dropped. Everything. We've been married 8 years, I never thought I needed to hide anything from him. I started scrolling through my phone with trembling fingers. Our joint checking account, my personal Gmail, Facebook, even my Amazon account. Check your email first. Look for anything sent from your account that you don't remember sending. I opened Gmail and went straight to my sent folder. At first, everything looked normal, replies to Emma's teacher, confirmations for grocery pickup, a thank you note to my neighbor Mrs. Kim for watching the kids. Then I saw it. There's an email to Julie from last Thursday, I said, my voice barely a whisper. The subject line says I'm really struggling. But I never sent this. Dr. Martinez moved her chair closer. What does it say? I read aloud, my voice getting shakier with each word. Julie, I know you're worried about me and you're right to be. I've been having episodes where I can't remember things I've done. Yesterday I found my wedding ring in the freezer and I have no memory of putting it there. Mark has been so patient, but I can see the stress is wearing on him. I'm scared I'm losing my mind like Grandma Rose did. Maybe I should talk to someone professional. I don't want the kids to see me like this. Did you write any part of that? No. None of it. I scrolled down to see Julie's response. Sarah, honey, I'm so glad you're reaching out. Mark mentioned he was concerned, but I didn't realize it was this serious. Dr. Patterson helped Mom so much after Dad died, maybe she could recommend someone? Dr. Martinez made a note. Check your text messages with your sister. I switched to my messages and immediately saw the problem. There were entire conversations I didn't remember having, texts from me to Julie describing memory gaps and feeling disconnected from reality. Messages to my old boss Rebecca apologizing for not being myself lately. Even a text thread with Mark's sister Carol where I supposedly confided about having trouble distinguishing dreams from reality. He's been impersonating me, I said, the full scope of his manipulation finally becoming clear. For how long? How many people think I've been crying out for help while I had no idea? Dr. Martinez's phone rang. She answered quickly, yes, this is Dr. Martinez. I need an immediate digital forensics consultation. Room 314. Yes, it's urgent. She hung up and looked at me seriously. Sarah, I believe you. But we need to move fast. If your husband has been planning this as systematically as it appears, he won't wait long to take the next step. What do you mean? You're currently on a 72-hour psychiatric hold. In most cases, that gives families time to arrange voluntary treatment or longer-term care. But if someone wanted to expedite involuntary commitment proceedings. She trailed off, checking her watch. It's 4:15 p.m. Depending on his connections, your husband could potentially file for an emergency competency hearing as early as tomorrow morning. The room felt like it was spinning. How is that possible? With the right documentation, medical records showing concerning behavior, testimony from family and friends about your deteriorating mental state, evidence of you reaching out for help in your own words, a judge might grant a temporary conservatorship pending full psychiatric evaluation. But you're a psychiatrist. Can't you testify that I'm competent? I can and I will. But I've only been evaluating you for 90 minutes. Your husband has months of documented evidence and witness statements. She leaned forward. However, if we can prove his evidence was fabricated, everything changes. There was another knock, and a young man in a hospital IT shirt entered with a laptop case. Dr. Martinez? I'm Kevin from Digital Security. I understand we have a potential case of technological harassment. Kevin, this is Sarah Chen. We need to examine her phone and cloud accounts for signs of unauthorized access and data manipulation. Kevin sat down and opened his laptop. Mrs. Chen, can you walk me through your account security? Do you use two-factor authentication? No, I never set that up. Mark always said it was unnecessary for personal accounts. Kevin and Dr. Martinez exchanged a meaningful look. Let's start by checking your account activity logs, Kevin said, connecting a cable to my phone. If someone else has been accessing your accounts, there should be digital fingerprints. As Kevin worked, Dr. Martinez turned back to me. Sarah, I need to ask you something difficult. When you confronted Mark about the recordings yesterday, how exactly did he react? I thought back to that horrible moment in his office. At first he seemed genuinely confused. He asked me what recordings, looked at the empty desk drawer like he didn't understand. But then, I paused, remembering. His expression changed. Just for a second, I saw something else. Not confusion. It was more like calculation. What happened next? He sat me down and talked very gently about how grief can cause people to see patterns that aren't there. He said finding an old phone with random voice memos didn't mean there was some conspiracy against me. I felt sick remembering how reasonable he'd sounded. Then he hugged me and said he was worried I was getting paranoid. That maybe we should move up my appointment with Dr. Reeves. Kevin looked up from his laptop, his face grim. Dr. Martinez, we have a problem. Mrs. Chen's iCloud account shows login activity from 3 different devices over the past 6 months. Her phone, a MacBook registered to this address, and an iPhone 12. The phone he said he recycled, I whispered. It gets worse, Kevin continued. Someone has been systematically editing and replacing files in her photo stream. The metadata shows the original calendar photos were taken by her device, but the current versions were uploaded from the iPhone 12 and backdated to match the original timestamps. Dr. Martinez stood up abruptly. How long would it take you to compile a full forensic report? For a comprehensive analysis? At least 6 hours. But I can have a preliminary report with the most damaging evidence ready in 2 hours. Do it. And Kevin, this cannot leave this room until we're ready. As Kevin focused on his laptop, Dr. Martinez turned back to me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Sarah, there's something else we need to discuss. Something that might be difficult to hear. My chest tightened. What? If your husband has been planning this as meticulously as the evidence suggests, he's not going to simply give up because his first attempt failed. Men like this, they don't just walk away from $2.3 million. What are you saying? Dr. Martinez met my eyes steadily. I'm saying that even after we expose his scheme, you and your children may still be in danger. The words hit me like a physical blow. What kind of danger? Dr. Martinez returned to her seat, her expression grave. Sarah, your husband has invested months into this plan. He's documented your supposed mental decline, manipulated your digital presence, and positioned himself as the concerned spouse trying to help his unstable wife. Even with Kevin's forensic evidence, Mark isn't going to just apologize and walk away. But once people know what he's been doing. Think about it from his perspective, she interrupted. Right now, if his plan had worked, he'd have gained control of $2.3 million and full custody of your children within weeks. Instead, he's about to be exposed as someone who systematically psychologically abused his wife for financial gain. He's facing potential criminal charges, divorce proceedings where he'll get nothing, and complete social destruction. Kevin looked up from his laptop. Dr. Martinez, I'm finding evidence of financial account monitoring too. Someone's been tracking Mrs. Chen's spending patterns, her investment account balances, even her Amazon purchases. They've got access to everything. My hands were shaking again. He's been watching every dollar I spend? It looks like he set up alerts for any transactions over $50, Kevin said, scrolling through screens of data. And Mrs. Chen, there's something else. Someone accessed your investment account with Richardson and Associates yesterday at 11:47 p.m. That's impossible. I was asleep by 10:30, and I never accessed those accounts at night. Kevin's face was grim. The login came from the same iPhone 12 that's been manipulating your other accounts. And Mrs. Chen, they initiated a request to expedite your trust maturation review. Dr. Martinez leaned forward sharply. What does that mean? I'm not a financial expert, Kevin said, but it looks like someone was trying to move up the timeline for when she could access her inheritance. The request was filed under the pretense of urgent medical expenses requiring immediate asset liquidation. The room felt like it was tilting. He was going to have me committed and then claim I needed expensive treatment that required accessing the trust early. It gets worse, Kevin continued. I found emails in your drafts folder that were never sent but were saved. They're addressed to Richardson and Associates, supposedly from you, expressing concern about your mental state and requesting that Mark be given limited power of attorney over your financial decisions in case something happens to me. I never wrote those emails. The metadata shows they were created on the iPhone 12, just like everything else. Dr. Martinez stood up and began pacing. This isn't just gaslighting or even financial abuse anymore. This is a comprehensive identity theft and fraud operation. She turned to me. Sarah, where are your children right now? My blood went cold. With Mark. Emma has soccer practice until 5:30, and Jake was going to his friend Connor's house after school. Mark was supposed to pick them both up and... I trailed off, realizing what she was really asking. You think he'd use them against me somehow? I think a man who spent months methodically destroying his wife's sanity for money is capable of anything. Dr. Martinez checked her watch. It's 4:45. Do you have any way to contact your children directly? Emma has a phone for emergencies. Jake doesn't. I fumbled for my phone with trembling fingers and called Emma's number. It went straight to voicemail. Try texting, Dr. Martinez suggested. I typed quickly, hi sweetheart, just checking in. How was school today? Love you. We waited. No response. That's not like Emma, I said, panic creeping into my voice. She always texts back immediately. Always. Kevin looked up from his laptop. Mrs. Chen, I can check if there have been any location changes on your family's phones. If you're all on the same plan. Yes, we have shared location services. The account is under Mark's name, but I have access. I handed him my phone with shaking hands. Kevin's fingers flew across his keyboard, connecting my phone to his system. After a few tense minutes, he frowned. Mrs. Chen, according to the GPS data, your children's phones show they're at your home address. They've been there since 3:15 p.m. That's impossible. Emma's practice doesn't end until 5:30, and Jake was supposed to go to Connor's house. Dr. Martinez was already reaching for her desk phone. What's your home address, Sarah? 247 Maple Grove Lane, but wait, you can't just send police there. What if I'm wrong? What if there's a perfectly innocent explanation and I end up looking exactly as unstable as Mark's been claiming? Sarah, Dr. Martinez said firmly, your husband called 911 this morning claiming you were having a psychotic break. He had you brought here against your will as part of an elaborate scheme to steal your inheritance. We now have evidence that he's been impersonating you online and manipulating your digital life for months. At this point, your children's safety takes priority over how this looks. Kevin suddenly sat up straighter. Dr. Martinez, I just found something else. Mrs. Chen, someone used your accounts to research one-way flights to Portland, Oregon this morning at 6:23 a.m. The searches were for 3 tickets, 2 children and 1 adult, departing Thursday. Thursday? The world seemed to stop spinning. That's tomorrow. But why Portland? Your mother's house, Dr. Martinez said quietly. The one you inherited. The one that's part of the $2.3 million estate. I stared at her as the horrible truth crystallized. If I'm declared mentally incompetent and Mark becomes my trustee, he could take the kids anywhere he wanted. He could say they need to be away from me for their own safety. Dr. Martinez was already dialing. This is Dr. Elena Martinez at Seattle Presbyterian Hospital. I need an immediate welfare check on 2 minors at 247 Maple Grove Lane. As she spoke to the dispatcher, Kevin continued typing furiously. Mrs. Chen, I'm also seeing hotel reservations in Portland made this morning. The Hilton Garden in downtown, checking in Thursday night. 2 rooms, 1 adult, 2 children. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Mark hadn't just been planning to have me committed. He'd been planning to disappear with my children and my inheritance, leaving me locked in a psychiatric facility with no one believing my claims of conspiracy. Dr. Martinez hung up the phone. Police are dispatched to your house. ETA 7 minutes. She sat down across from me, her voice gentle but urgent. Sarah, whatever happens next, I need you to stay calm. We have evidence now. We have proof. But this isn't over yet. Through the small window, I could see the sun setting over Seattle, casting long shadows across the hospital parking lot. Somewhere out there, my children might be in danger, and the man I'd trusted with my life was capable of things I'd never imagined. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Mark. Sarah, I know you're scared and confused right now. But everything I'm doing is because I love you. The kids and I will wait for you to get better. However long it takes. I showed the message to Dr. Martinez. She read it and her jaw tightened. Kevin, she said without looking away from the phone, how fast can you get me that preliminary report? Kevin's fingers flew across the keyboard. Give me 30 more minutes and I'll have enough evidence to bury him. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Emma's number. Hi Mom. Dad picked us up early from school. He said you needed to rest, so we're having a special movie night. Love you. I stared at the message, my stomach churning. This isn't how Emma texts. She uses emojis for everything, and she never calls me Mom, it's always Mama or just Em. Dr. Martinez leaned over to read the message. He's got their phones. But why would he? I stopped mid-sentence as another horrible realization hit me. The welfare check. When the police show up at our house, Mark's going to tell them I'm in psychiatric care. He'll say I'm having delusions about him kidnapping the children, and here they'll be, safe at home, watching movies. Making him look like the rational, concerned husband dealing with his unstable wife, Dr. Martinez finished grimly. Kevin looked up from his laptop. It's worse than that. Mrs. Chen, I found draft emails in your account addressed to Emma's school and Jake's daycare. They're dated for tomorrow morning, supposedly from you, saying you're having a family emergency and the kids will be out for the rest of the week. He's going to send those emails after I'm transferred to long-term psychiatric care, I whispered. Then take them to Portland while I'm locked up and can't contact anyone. My phone rang. Mark's number. Dr. Martinez nodded at me to answer, then quickly activated the speaker function. Hi Sarah, sweetheart. I just wanted to check on you. His voice was warm, concerned, exactly the way it had been for 8 years of marriage. The kids are asking about you. I told them you're getting the help you need. Mark, where exactly are you right now? At home, of course. Emma and Jake are worried, but I explained that sometimes mommies need special doctors to help them feel better. There was a pause. Sarah, you sound different. Are they medicating you? Dr. Martinez mouthed, keep him talking, and gestured to Kevin, who was frantically typing. I'm fine, Mark. I want to talk to the kids. Oh honey, Dr. Reeves said it's better if you focus on getting well first. He thinks hearing their voices might be too overwhelming right now. My blood froze. Dr. Reeves? I thought my appointment wasn't until Friday. Well, when everything happened this morning, I called his emergency line. He was so helpful, Sarah. He said these kinds of breaks often happen suddenly, and the best thing for the children is stability and routine. Kevin held up his laptop screen. He pulled up the Washington State Medical Licensing Board website. There was no Dr. Reeves listed in the Seattle area. No Dr. Reeves specializing in grief counseling anywhere in Washington. Mark, I said, my voice barely steady, what's Dr. Reeves' first name again? Daniel. Dr. Daniel Reeves. Sarah, why are you asking about details like that? The doctor said fixating on specifics might be part of your condition. Kevin was already running a broader search. No Dr. Daniel Reeves licensed in Oregon, California, or Idaho either. Mark, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Of course, sweetheart. Anything. Did you move my car keys to the laundry room last Tuesday morning? Silence. When Mark spoke again, his voice was different. Flatter. Sarah, this is exactly what Dr. Reeves warned me about. You're creating elaborate stories to avoid accepting that you need help. That's not an answer. You moved your own keys, Sarah. Just like you've been moving lots of things and forgetting. Just like you canceled lunch with Julie and convinced yourself I did it. Kevin held up another screen. He'd found the fake Dr. Reeves website Mark had shown me, but now he was displaying its registration information. The domain had been purchased 6 weeks ago by someone using a prepaid credit card and a fake address. Mark, I said, my voice getting stronger, I know about the iPhone 12. The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. When he finally spoke, his voice was completely different. Cold. Calculating. Sarah, you're having another episode. There is no iPhone 12. I recycled that phone months ago, just like I told you. But underneath the words, I could hear something else. Panic. Mark, where are my children? They're right here. Safe. Which is more than I can say for their mother right now. The line went dead. Dr. Martinez immediately grabbed her desk phone. This is Dr. Martinez again. I need to speak to whoever's handling the welfare check at 247 Maple Grove Lane. What do you mean they're not there? My heart stopped. What? The house is empty, she said, covering the phone's mouthpiece. No cars in the driveway, no one answering the door. They're running the plates on a neighbor's car to see if anyone saw them leave. Kevin suddenly straightened up. Dr. Martinez, the GPS tracking just updated. Those phones are moving. They're currently on I-5 South, about 20 miles from the Oregon border. He's running, Dr. Martinez said. Sarah, we need to call the FBI. The FBI field office felt like something out of a movie, all glass partitions and serious-faced agents in dark suits. Agent Rebecca Torres, a sharp-eyed woman about my age, had listened to our entire story without interruption while Kevin transferred his digital evidence to her team's servers. Mrs. Chen, Agent Torres said, closing her notepad, what we have here is interstate kidnapping, wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes totaling over $2 million. But I need you to understand, your husband has a significant head start. How significant? Dr. Martinez asked. The GPS tracking on your children's phones went dark 45 minutes ago, just south of Portland. Either the batteries died, or your husband disabled them. Agent Torres pulled up a map on her tablet. But here's what's interesting, we ran the flight reservations Kevin found. Mark Chen never actually purchased those tickets. He only searched for them. My stomach dropped. So you don't know where he's taking them? We're working on it. But Mrs. Chen, there's something else. We pulled your husband's financial records while you were giving your statement. He's been liquidating assets for weeks. She handed me a printout that made my hands shake. Mark had closed his 401k account on October 1st, a withdrawal of $127,000. He'd sold his vintage Mustang on September 28th for $38,000 cash. Even his golf club membership had been canceled with a partial refund. He's been planning to disappear, I whispered. It gets worse. We found evidence he's been using cryptocurrency exchanges to convert cash into untraceable digital assets. As of yesterday, Mark Chen has access to approximately $200,000 in Bitcoin. Dr. Martinez leaned forward. Enough to disappear for years. Or long enough to establish residency somewhere without extradition treaties, Agent Torres said grimly. Mrs. Chen, I have to ask, does your husband have a passport? Do your children? Yes, we all got them renewed last summer for a vacation to Canada. The memory felt like a lifetime ago. But surely you can flag them, prevent him from leaving the country? Already done. But if he's been planning this as carefully as the evidence suggests, he may have anticipated that step. Agent Torres' phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her expression darkened. Excuse me for a moment. She stepped away to take a call, leaving me alone with Dr. Martinez and Kevin. Through the conference room's glass walls, I could see a dozen agents working phones and computers, treating my family's destruction like just another case file. Sarah, Dr. Martinez said gently, I know this is overwhelming, but I need to ask about your mother's house in Portland. Could Mark access it? He has keys. Mom gave them to both of us 2 years ago in case of emergencies. I pressed my palms against my temples, trying to think clearly. But it's been empty since she died. The utilities are still on, I've been meaning to deal with that, but there's no food, no supplies for children. Kevin looked up from his laptop. Mrs. Chen, I've been monitoring your credit cards and bank accounts for activity. 20 minutes ago, someone used your debit card at a Target in Tigard, Oregon. The purchase was $312.67. What did they buy? His fingers flew across the keyboard. The transaction is still processing, but Tigard is about 15 minutes from your mother's house. Agent Torres returned, her face grim. That was our Portland field office. They've had units watching your mother's property since we contacted them an hour ago. No one's been there. Then where? But Mrs. Chen, we may have caught a break. The Target purchase your IT specialist just mentioned? Our Portland team is pulling the security footage right now. If it's your husband, we'll have visual confirmation of the children's condition. My phone buzzed with a text from Mark's number. Sarah, I hope you're getting the help you need. Don't worry about Emma and Jake. They're safe with Daddy. We're going on a little adventure while you focus on getting better. I've transferred some money to your checking account to cover your medical expenses. Love always, M. I showed the message to Agent Torres. She read it and immediately called her tech team. We need to trace this message immediately, she said into her phone. And check Mrs. Chen's bank accounts. There may have been a transfer to make it look like he's being financially supportive. Kevin was already pulling up my banking information. There's a deposit from your joint savings account. $5,000 transferred an hour ago with the memo for Sarah's treatment. He's creating evidence that he's a caring husband supporting his sick wife, Dr. Martinez said. Even while he's fleeing with the children. Agent Torres hung up her phone. Mrs. Chen, I need to prepare you for what we might find on that security footage. If your husband is desperate enough to flee the state with your children, there's no telling what he's told them about you or the situation. What do you mean? Children Emma and Jake's age don't typically go willingly on unexpected trips without asking questions. Your husband would have needed to explain why they couldn't call you, why they had to leave school early, why they're suddenly in a different state. The implications hit me like a physical blow. You think he's told them I'm dangerous? That they need to be protected from me? It's possible. We see this in parental abduction cases. The taking parent often convinces the children that the left-behind parent is a threat to their safety. My phone rang again. Unknown number. Agent Torres nodded for me to answer it, and her tech team immediately began tracing the call. Hello? I said, my voice barely steady. Mama? It was Emma, and she sounded scared. Mama, Daddy said you're really sick and the doctors might not be able to make you better. Emma, sweetheart, where are you? Are you and Jake okay? We're at Grandma Rosa's house. But it's dark and cold and smells funny. Daddy said we have to stay here until. She paused, and I could hear Mark's voice in the background, though I couldn't make out the words. Emma, listen to me carefully. I'm not sick, honey. I'm coming to find you, okay? But Daddy said. The line went dead. Agent Torres was already barking orders into her radio. All units to 247, Rose Garden Drive, Portland. Suspects are at the deceased grandmother's residence. Approach with extreme caution, 2 minor children on scene. I grabbed her arm. That's not my mother's address. She stopped mid-transmission. What? My mother lived at 1847 Elm Street. I have no idea who lives on Rose Garden Drive. Agent Torres stared at me, and I saw something I hadn't seen before in her professional demeanor, genuine alarm. Mrs. Chen, she said slowly, if your husband has taken your children to a location you're not familiar with, this isn't just kidnapping anymore. This is something much worse. Agent Torres was already coordinating with her Portland team while I sat frozen, trying to process what Emma had said. Rose Garden Drive. I'd lived in Portland for the first 22 years of my life. I knew every neighborhood, every street name. There was no Rose Garden Drive. Mrs. Chen, Agent Torres said, hanging up her radio, I need you to think carefully. Could your husband have friends or business connections in the Portland area? Somewhere he might take the children that would sound familiar enough to Emma that she'd think it was your mother's house? My mind raced through possibilities. Mark's college roommate had moved to Portland 5 years ago, but Emma had never been there. His firm had a satellite office downtown, but that was commercial space. Then something clicked. Wait, I said, my heart pounding. Mark's been researching my mother's neighborhood for months. He said he wanted to understand the property value for estate planning purposes. What if he found another house in the same area? Something that would seem familiar to the kids but give him more privacy than Mom's actual house? Kevin looked up from his laptop. I can cross-reference recent rental agreements in that zip code with Mark's name or known aliases. His fingers flew across the keyboard. Mrs. Chen, do you know if your husband has been using any other names recently? Business aliases, anything like that? He uses M. Chen Financial Services for his consulting work, but his legal name is always. I stopped. Actually, wait. Last month I saw mail addressed to Martin Chen instead of Mark. When I asked him about it, he said some new client had misheard his name and it was easier to just go with it. Martin Chen, Agent Torres repeated, already texting her team. Kevin, run that name. Within minutes, Kevin had results. Martin Chen signed a month-to-month lease on October 1st for property at 247, Rose Garden Court, not Drive, Court. It's a small rental house about 8 blocks from Mrs. Chen's mother's actual address. Agent Torres grabbed her radio. All units, correction on the address. 247, Rose Garden Court. Repeat, 247, Rose Garden Court. Property is a rental under the name Martin Chen. How did he even know that house was available? I asked, but even as I said it, I realized the answer. The real estate agent. Mark said he wanted to get a professional assessment of Mom's house value. He must have contacted local agents, learned about available rentals in the neighborhood. Dr. Martinez, who'd been quietly taking notes, looked up sharply. Sarah, when did Mark first suggest you needed to see a psychiatrist? Early September, maybe the second week? I tried to remember. Right after we got the final paperwork from Richardson and Associates about the trust timeline. And when did he sign the lease on Rose Garden Court? October 1st. The timeline was becoming horrifyingly clear. He's been planning this since he learned exactly when I'd be able to access Mom's money. Agent Torres' radio crackled. Agent Torres, Portland team is in position. The house appears occupied, lights are on, 2 vehicles in the driveway. One matches the registration for Mark Chen's Honda Pilot. What's the second vehicle? She asked. Running the plates now. It's a rental car, picked up yesterday from PDX Airport under the name Martin Chen. My blood went cold. He rented a car at the airport? But he drove his own car to Portland. Agent Torres met my eyes grimly. Mrs. Chen, people don't rent cars at airports unless they're planning to fly somewhere. Kevin, check flight reservations again, but this time search for Martin Chen. Kevin's face went pale as he typed. Agent Torres, there are 3 tickets booked under Martin Chen for tomorrow morning. 6:45 a.m. departure from Portland to Vancouver, British Columbia. 1 adult, 2 children. Canada, I whispered. He's taking them to Canada. It gets worse, Kevin continued. These aren't round-trip tickets. And Mrs. Chen, the booking was paid for with Bitcoin converted to a prepaid credit card. Agent Torres was already on her radio again. We need to move now. All units, approach and contain. Do not let anyone leave that property. Through the conference room speakers, we could hear the radio chatter as FBI agents surrounded the house on Rose Garden Court. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. Units in position, came the crackling voice. We have visual on 2 subjects through the front window. Adult male and what appears to be a female child. No sign of the male child. Where's Jake? I said, panic rising in my voice. Emma said they were both there. Agent Torres held up a hand, listening intently to her radio. Team 2, check the perimeter. Look for any other exits or vehicles. Agent Torres, came another voice through the radio, we've got a problem. The male subject appears to be packing suitcases. He's moving fast, like he knows we're here. My phone suddenly buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Sarah, I know they found us. This isn't how I wanted this to go. But I can't let you destroy our family. The kids deserve better than a mother who can't tell reality from fantasy. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I showed the message to Agent Torres. She read it and her jaw tightened. He's about to run, she said into her radio. All units, move in now. The next few minutes felt like hours as we listened to the raid unfold through crackling radio transmissions. Shouting voices, Emma crying, the sound of a door being forced open. Then Agent Torres' radio went quiet. Portland team, report, she said. Static. Then finally, Agent Torres, we have the adult male in custody. We have 1 child, female, age appears consistent with Emma Chen. But Agent Torres. What is it? The male child is not here. And the subject is refusing to tell us where he is. The words hit me like a physical blow. Jake wasn't there. My 6-year-old son was somewhere else, and Mark wasn't talking. What do you mean he's refusing? I demanded, grabbing Agent Torres' radio. This is Sarah Chen. Where's my son? Agent Torres gently took the radio back. Mrs. Chen, let us handle this. Portland team, what's the daughter saying? Can she tell us about her brother's location? The girl is very upset, asking for her mother. She keeps saying her brother is waiting for daddy at the special place, but she doesn't know where that is. The subject told her Jake was going on a different adventure and would meet them later. My legs nearly gave out. Dr. Martinez caught my arm and helped me sit down. He separated them, I whispered. Why would he separate them? Kevin looked up from his laptop, his face pale. Mrs. Chen, I'm seeing some concerning financial activity. 30 minutes ago, someone accessed your mother's trust account again using your login credentials. That's impossible. Only Richardson and Associates can access the trust directly. Someone initiated a request for emergency fund disbursement. They're claiming you need immediate psychiatric treatment costing $180,000, and as your husband, Mark is authorized to approve the expenditure. Agent Torres grabbed her phone. Get me Richardson and Associates immediately. And someone get Mark Chen on the line from Portland. Now. While Agent Torres coordinated with her teams, Dr. Martinez pulled me aside. Sarah, I need you to think about Jake specifically. Is there anywhere Mark might take him that would feel safe to a 6-year-old? Somewhere Jake wouldn't be scared to go without you and Emma? My mind raced through possibilities. Jake loved the aquarium, but it would be closed. He was obsessed with trains. Portland had that vintage trolley museum he visited with my mother last Christmas. But would Mark really take him somewhere public? The storage unit, I said suddenly. Mark rented a storage unit in Portland 3 weeks ago. He said it was to store some of Mom's furniture until we decided what to do with it. Kevin was already typing. What's the name of the storage facility? I don't remember, but it's on his credit card statements. He paid for 6 months up front. My heart was racing. But Kevin, you can't keep a child in a storage unit. Jake would be terrified. Unless someone told him it was a game, Dr. Martinez said grimly. Or told him he was hiding until Mommy got better. Agent Torres finished her phone call and turned back to us. Richardson and Associates confirmed someone tried to access your trust funds 20 minutes ago using forged psychiatric evaluation forms. They rejected the request, but Mrs. Chen, whoever did this had detailed knowledge of your mother's financial arrangements. It was Mark. He's been planning this for months. Here's what's more concerning, Agent Torres continued. Our interrogation team in Portland says Mark keeps checking his watch and smiling. He's acting like he's waiting for something. Kevin suddenly straightened up. I found the storage facility. Northwest Storage Solutions on Powell Boulevard. But Mrs. Chen, there's something else. Mark's credit card shows he purchased a prepaid cell phone yesterday. The GPS on that phone is currently active. Where is it? Kevin's face went ashen. It's moving. Fast. On I-84 east toward the airport. Agent Torres grabbed her radio. All units, we need to intercept a vehicle heading to PDX Airport. Subject may have a 6-year-old male child. Wait, I said, my mind racing. If Jake's phone GPS went dark with Emma's, but Mark has a second phone that's moving toward the airport. The horrible realization hit all of us at the same time. He's not with Jake, Agent Torres said grimly. Someone else has the boy. My phone rang. Mark's number. Answer it, Agent Torres said, immediately signaling her tech team to trace the call. Sarah, I hope you're proud of yourself. Mark's voice was cold, completely different from the concerned husband act he'd maintained for months. You've destroyed our family over your paranoid fantasies. Where is Jake? Jake is safe. Much safer than he'd be with a mother who sees conspiracies everywhere. Mark, please. Emma needs her brother. Bring him back. Emma will understand eventually. Children are resilient. They adapt to new realities. His voice carried a chilling finality. Unlike their mother. The FBI has you, Mark. It's over. Mark laughed, and the sound made my skin crawl. Sarah, you still don't understand, do you? You think this was all about your mother's money. Wasn't it? The money was just a bonus. This was about proving that I could erase you completely. Your credibility, your sanity, your children's trust in you. And even now, even with all your so-called evidence, Jake still thinks his daddy is protecting him from his crazy mother. The line went dead, and I realized Mark had just told me the most terrifying truth of all. He'd never planned to give my children back. Agent Torres's tech team was frantically trying to trace Mark's call while I sat frozen by his words. Jake still thinks his daddy is protecting him from his crazy mother. How do you undo months of systematic poisoning of a 6-year-old's mind? Mrs. Chen, Kevin said urgently, looking up from his laptop. I've got the GPS location of that second phone. It's not heading to the airport anymore. It stopped at Northwest Storage Solutions. Someone's there right now. Agent Torres was already coordinating with Portland units when her phone rang. She answered immediately, putting it on speaker. Agent Torres, this is Detective Walsh, Portland PD. We've got a situation at the storage facility. Security guard says a man matching Mark Chen's description paid him $500 cash yesterday to keep an eye on Unit 247 and make sure the little boy inside stays safe until his father comes back. My heart stopped. Jake's been alone in a storage unit overnight? Ma'am, we're getting him out now. Paramedics are on scene. The child appears physically unharmed but extremely distressed. He keeps asking for his daddy and saying his mommy is sick and dangerous. I pressed my hands to my mouth to keep from screaming. Mark had convinced my 6-year-old son that I was a threat to his safety, then abandoned him in a windowless storage unit for nearly 24 hours. Detective Walsh, Agent Torres said, who has the second phone? Someone was clearly monitoring the situation. That's the thing, we found the phone zip tied to the storage unit's door. It was just there to make you think someone was actively watching the boy. Whoever set this up wanted you to waste time chasing shadows. Kevin's face had gone pale. Agent Torres, if Mark planted that phone as a decoy, what's his actual escape plan? Before anyone could answer, my phone buzzed with another text from an unknown number. Sarah, by the time you read this, I'll be somewhere you'll never find me. Don't worry about the children's future. I've made arrangements for Emma's care. Jake will learn to forget about his unstable mother in time. You'll always wonder if you could have prevented this if you just accepted the help I was trying to give you. He's got Emma, I whispered. Jake was just a distraction to buy him time. Agent Torres grabbed her radio. Portland team, what's the status on Mark Chen? Is he still in custody? Static, then, Agent Torres, we have a problem. The man we arrested, we just ran his fingerprints. It's not Mark Chen. The room went deadly quiet. What do you mean it's not Mark? I demanded. The suspect identified himself as David Martinez, Mark's business associate. He says Mark hired him to pose as Emma's father to create a distraction. He was paid $10,000 to rent the house, stay with the girl for one night, and let himself be arrested today. My legs gave out completely. Dr. Martinez helped me into a chair while Agent Torres barked orders into a radio. All points bulletin for Mark Chen and a 7-year-old girl named Emma. Last known location Portland, Oregon, but consider them potentially mobile across multiple states. Kevin was typing frantically. Mrs. Chen, I'm checking all transportation hubs, flights, trains, rental cars, everything. If Mark's been planning this for months, he's got to have an exit strategy. Wait, I said, a horrible thought occurring to me. The Bitcoin transactions Kevin found earlier. What if Mark wasn't just converting money to disappear with the children? What if he was paying multiple people to help him? Agent Torres' expression darkened. A network of accomplices would explain how he stayed ahead of us. Kevin, check Mrs. Chen's accounts for any other large Bitcoin transactions. There's another 25,000 converted to Bitcoin 3 days ago, Kevin said. And Mrs. Chen, someone accessed your mother's life insurance policy information. The one where you're the beneficiary. That policy isn't even active yet, it's still in probate. Someone submitted a change of beneficiary form yesterday, listing Mark as the primary recipient due to your mental incapacity. The insurance company flagged it as suspicious, but Mrs. Chen. Kevin's voice trailed off as he read his screen. The form was notarized by someone claiming to be Dr. Daniel Reeves. The fake psychiatrist Mark had been trying to get me to see. Every piece of his plan was interconnected, designed to systematically strip away my children, my money, my freedom, and my sanity. Agent Torres' radio crackled. Agent Torres, we've got Jake Chen secured. He's asking for his sister and becoming increasingly agitated when we tell him she's not here. Through the static, I could hear my son crying in the background, calling for Emma and for his daddy to come back and protect him from the bad people who wanted to take him to his sick mommy. Mark had turned my own children into weapons against me. My phone rang again, but this time it was a number I recognized, Julie's. Sarah? Oh my god, I just saw the news. They're saying Mark kidnapped Emma? But that's impossible. He called me 2 hours ago asking if I'd seen you because you'd escaped from the hospital and he was worried you might try to take the kids. The blood drained from my face. Julie, what exactly did Mark tell you? He said you'd had a complete breakdown, that you were making up stories about him stealing money and hiding recordings. He sounded so scared, Sarah. He said the doctors told him you might become violent and that I should call police immediately if you contacted me. Agent Torres grabbed the phone. This is FBI agent Rebecca Torres. Ma'am, what time did Mark Chen call you, and did he say where he was calling from? About an hour ago, maybe 1:30? He said he was driving around Portland looking for Sarah because she'd somehow gotten Emma and was probably heading to their mother's old house. He begged me to call him if I heard anything. Agent Torres muted the phone and turned to her team. He's been calling Sarah's family and friends, painting her as a dangerous fugitive who stole her own daughter. He's creating witnesses who will swear they saw him as the concerned father trying to rescue his child from his unstable wife. Kevin looked up from his laptop, his face grim. It gets worse. I'm seeing social media posts from Mark's Facebook account over the past hour, photos of Emma at what looks like a playground, with captions like, keeping my baby girl safe until mommy gets the help she needs and prayers needed for our family during this difficult time. Let me see those photos, I demanded. Kevin turned his screen toward me, and my heart sank. The photos showed Emma on playground equipment I didn't recognize, but she looked tired and scared, not like a child happily playing with her father. In one image, I could see part of a sign in the background. Can you zoom in on that sign? I asked. Kevin enhanced the image. The partial text read, Inkton Park Elementary. Washington Park Elementary, Agent Torres said, already pulling up a map on her tablet. That's in Beaverton, Oregon. 15 minutes from where we arrested the decoy. But why would he take Emma to a school playground? Dr. Martinez asked. My stomach dropped as I realized the answer. Because it's Wednesday afternoon. Schools are still in session, which means the playground would be empty, no witnesses. But to anyone seeing his social media posts, it looks like he's just a dad spending time with his daughter at a normal, safe place. Agent Torres was already coordinating with Portland units when Kevin held up his hand. Wait. I'm tracking the metadata on these photos, and they weren't taken today. They were taken last weekend and backdated. Mark's been staging this for days. So where are they actually? Before anyone could answer, a new Facebook post appeared on Mark's account. This time it was a video, 30 seconds of Emma sitting in what looked like a hotel room, eating McDonald's and watching cartoons. But Emma's eyes looked glassy, and she seemed unusually lethargic. Is he drugging her? I whispered. Dr. Martinez leaned closer to the screen. She looks like she might have been given something mild, maybe children's Benadryl to keep her calm and compliant. It's not uncommon in parental abduction cases. Agent Torres's radio crackled with an update from Portland. We've located the hotel from the video. Red roofing on McLaughlin Boulevard. Units are moving to intercept. But even as hope flickered in my chest, Kevin was shaking his head at his computer screen. The video metadata shows it was uploaded using a VPN routed through 3 different servers. The actual upload location could be anywhere. Mark was always one step ahead, and somewhere out there, my drugged 7-year-old daughter was trapped with a man who'd spent months systematically destroying her mother's life for money. My phone buzzed with one final text. Stop chasing shadows, Sarah. You'll never find us. But don't worry, Emma will have a wonderful new life. She won't even remember having such an unstable mother. The red roofing was another dead end. By the time Portland units arrived, the room had been vacant for hours, though housekeeping confirmed a man and young girl had checked out that morning. The trail was going cold, and Mark seemed to anticipate every move we made. Agent Torres hung up her radio and turned to me with barely concealed frustration. Mrs. Chen, I need you to think like your husband. He's been planning this for months. Where would he go that we haven't considered? Somewhere he feels completely safe, somewhere he has resources. I closed my eyes, trying to push past my terror for Emma and think strategically. Mark was methodical, calculating. He wouldn't rely on hotels or rentals indefinitely. He'd want somewhere he had complete control, somewhere he'd prepared in advance. His mother, I said suddenly. Mark's mother lives in Spokane. She's had dementia for 3 years, she's in a memory care facility, but Mark still has power of attorney over her house. Kevin's fingers flew across his keyboard. What's the address? 1247, Cedar Lane. But it's been empty since 2021. Mark's been paying to maintain it, says he can't bear to sell his childhood home while she's still alive. That's 4 hours from Portland, Agent Torres said, already alerting her teams. Isolated, familiar territory, and a property he controls completely. Kevin pulled up satellite images of the Spokane address. The house sat on 2 acres, surrounded by pine trees, with only one neighbor visible within half a mile. Perfect for someone who wanted to disappear while figuring out his next move. Mrs. Chen, Kevin said, his voice tight with concern, I'm seeing recent utility activity at that address. The electricity usage spiked 3 days ago, and there was a grocery delivery yesterday, $247 worth of food and supplies. Agent Torres was coordinating with the Spokane field office when my phone rang. Unknown number again. It's him, I said, my hands shaking as I answered. Hello, Sarah. Mark's voice was eerily calm. I saw the news reports. FBI manhunt, kidnapped children, dangerous fugitive. You've really outdone yourself this time. Mark, please. Just tell me Emma's okay. Emma's fine. Better than fine, actually. We've been having the most wonderful conversations about her future. Did you know she's always wanted to live somewhere with snow? Somewhere she could learn to ski? My blood went cold. Where are you taking her? Somewhere you'll never think to look. Somewhere they don't extradite for domestic disputes. His voice carried that same chilling satisfaction I'd heard earlier. Emma's going to love her new school. They have an excellent program for children whose parents are indisposed. Agent Torres was frantically signaling her team to keep tracing the call. Mark, the FBI has evidence of everything. The gaslighting, the financial fraud, the fake psychiatric records. It's over. Is it? Mark laughed. Sarah, even now, you still don't understand the scope of what I've accomplished. Check your email. With trembling fingers, I opened my Gmail. There was a new message from my own account, sent 20 minutes ago to Richardson and Associates, Emma's school, Jake's daycare, and a dozen other recipients. I can no longer handle the stress of my mental health issues and the impact they're having on my children. I am voluntarily relinquishing custody to my husband Mark, who has been trying to get me help for months. Please support him during this difficult transition as he protects Emma and Jake from their unstable mother. I will be seeking long-term psychiatric treatment. Do not try to contact me. Sarah Chen. I never sent that, I whispered. Of course you didn't, Mark said through the phone. But try explaining that to a family court judge when everyone who matters has documentation of your erratic behavior, your own written confession of mental instability, and testimony from multiple witnesses about your deteriorating condition. Agent Torres grabbed the phone. Mr. Chen, this is FBI Agent Torres. We have evidence of your systematic fraud and psychological abuse. Surrender now and we can discuss cooperation. Agent Torres, I presume you're recording this call. Good. Let me be very clear, I am a concerned father protecting his daughter from a demonstrably unstable mother who has been hospitalized for psychiatric evaluation. I have months of documentation supporting my concerns, and Sarah's own written words confirming her mental state. Any attempts to paint me as the villain will be seen as part of her paranoid delusions. The line went dead. Kevin looked up from his laptop, his face pale. The Spokane house is empty. Neighbors confirm no one's been there for days, despite the utility usage. Mark had been feeding us false leads while he slipped away with Emma to somewhere we'd never find them. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, and my heart stopped when I saw the attachment, a photo of Emma sleeping in the backseat of a car, her face peaceful but pale in the dim light. The timestamp showed it was taken 30 minutes ago. He's sending me pictures, I whispered, showing Agent Torres the image. She looks so small. Kevin immediately began analyzing the photo's metadata while Agent Torres coordinated with her tech team. But I was studying the background details, the car's interior, anything that might give us a clue. That's not Mark's Honda, I said suddenly. Look at the seat fabric, it's gray cloth, not the black leather in his Pilot. Another rental? Dr. Martinez suggested. Kevin shook his head, still typing furiously. No rental records under Mark Chen or Martin Chen in the past 48 hours. But Mrs. Chen, there's something else. The photo's GPS data wasn't scrubbed, I can see exactly where this was taken. Agent Torres leaned forward intently. Where? Highway 97, about 20 miles south of Bend, Oregon. But that doesn't make sense, Bend is in the opposite direction from Spokane. My mind raced through Mark's connections in Oregon. His college friend Dave lived in Bend, worked as a ski instructor. But Dave had moved to Colorado last winter, and Mark had complained about losing touch with him. Wait, I said, a horrible realization forming. Mark's been planning this for months, right? What if he's been recruiting help from people I'd never think to suspect? Agent Torres' expression sharpened. What do you mean? My sister Julie lives in Bend. She moved there 2 years ago after her divorce. The words felt like poison in my mouth. Mark's been calling her today, telling her I'm dangerous. What if that wasn't just to create witnesses against me? Kevin was already pulling up Julie's information. Mrs. Chen, when did your sister last contact you directly, not through Mark? I scrolled through my phone, my hands shaking as I realized the truth. 3 weeks ago. Every communication since then has either been through Mark or... I paused, checking my email. Or messages that could have been sent by someone with access to my accounts. Agent Torres was already on her radio. I need units dispatched to Bend, Oregon immediately. Suspect maybe with an accomplice. But Julie would never, I stopped mid-sentence, remembering Mark's systematic manipulation of everyone around me. Oh God. What if he's been gaslighting her too? Convincing her that helping him is the only way to protect Emma from her unstable mother? My phone rang. Julie's number. Answer it, Agent Torres said, activating the recording equipment. But be very careful about what you say. Julie? I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Sarah. My sister's voice was strained, unusual. I need you to stop what you're doing. The FBI called me an hour ago with some crazy story about Mark kidnapping Emma, but I know that's not true. Julie, where are you right now? I'm at home, and Sarah, Emma is here with me. She's safe, but she's terrified. She keeps asking why the FBI is looking for her daddy, and why everyone is saying her mommy is sick. Agent Torres immediately began coordinating with Bend units while I tried to process what Julie was telling me. Julie, how did Emma get there? When did Mark bring her to you? Mark didn't bring her, Sarah. You did. Last night, around midnight. Don't you remember? You were crying, saying you couldn't handle everything anymore, begging me to watch Emma while you got help. The room spun around me. Julie, I was in FBI custody last night. I never came to Bend. Sarah, honey, you're scaring me. You were here. We talked for 2 hours. You said Mark was trying to have you committed, but that you needed time to think clearly. Julie's voice cracked. You said if anything happened to you, I should take Emma and keep her safe until you could prove Mark was lying. Agent Torres grabbed the phone. Ma'am, this is Agent Torres. We need you to look very carefully at the person who brought Emma to you. Are you absolutely certain it was Sarah? The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Then Julie whispered. Oh my God. Sarah, whoever came to my house last night, she looked exactly like you, but now that I think about it. Her voice became panicked. Sarah, she knew things about our childhood, about Mom, about Emma's favorite foods. But her voice was slightly different. And she was wearing perfume, that expensive kind you never use. Mark had found someone to impersonate me. Agent Torres' face went ashen as Julie's words sank in. Ma'am, we need you to secure Emma immediately and wait for our units. Do not let anyone else into your house. But I don't understand, Julie said through the speaker. If that wasn't Sarah last night, then who? Julie, I interrupted, my voice barely steady. Describe exactly what this person looked like. Everything you can remember. She was your height, your build. Same dark hair, but it was styled differently, more polished than you usually wear it. And Sarah, she had your wedding ring, your purse, even that little scar on her hand from when we were kids and you fell off your bike. Kevin looked up from his laptop, his face grim. Mrs. Chen, I'm seeing a payment from Mark's Bitcoin account 3 weeks ago to something called Specialized Consulting Services. $15,000. Professional impersonator, Agent Torres said grimly. Someone with access to detailed personal information about Sarah's life, appearance, mannerisms. My phone buzzed with another text from Mark. Impressed yet? Sarah was very convincing, don't you think? Julie was so happy to help her troubled sister protect her niece. Family bonds are beautiful things. The sophisticated level of Mark's planning was becoming clear. He hadn't just been manipulating me and my digital accounts. He'd been studying me, documenting my relationships, finding ways to weaponize everyone who cared about me. Julie, I said, fighting to keep my voice calm, I need you to check something. Look at Emma, really look at her. Does she seem like herself? A pause, then Julie's voice became worried. She's very quiet. Much quieter than usual. And she keeps asking for her daddy, but when I try to talk to her about you, she just says Mom is sick and Daddy's protecting me. He's been conditioning her, Dr. Martinez said quietly. Systematic psychological manipulation of a 7-year-old. Agent Torres's radio crackled. Agent Torres, band units are 3 minutes out from the sister's location. But we got another problem. Airport security at PDX flagged a man matching Mark Chen's description who boarded a flight to Seattle 40 minutes ago. Traveling alone. Seattle? I said, confused. But Emma's in Bend. Kevin was typing frantically. Mrs. Chen, I'm cross-referencing flights from Seattle to international destinations. There's a Mark Chen booked on a red-eye flight tonight from Seattle Tacoma to Toronto, then connecting to Moscow. The pieces clicked together with horrible clarity. He's leaving Emma with Julie temporarily while he establishes himself somewhere without extradition. Once he's safe, he'll come back for her through legal channels, the loving father whose parental rights were violated by an unstable mother and overzealous FBI. Agent Torres grabbed her radio. I need Seattle Tacoma Airport locked down immediately. Mark Chen cannot be allowed to board that international flight. Agent Torres, came the response. Airport security just confirmed the Mark Chen who boarded the Seattle flight was carrying identification showing he's a licensed private investigator from California. He's not our suspect. Another decoy. Another carefully planned misdirection while the real Mark disappeared with resources we couldn't trace. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I recognized from my banking app, Richardson and Associates. Mrs. Chen? The voice was professional, concerned. This is Patricia Richardson. I'm calling because we've received some very unusual requests regarding your mother's trust today. Agent Torres immediately activated the speaker function. What kind of requests? I asked. Someone claiming to be you submitted paperwork this morning requesting immediate liquidation of the trust assets due to a family emergency. But Mrs. Chen, the signature doesn't match our records, and frankly, the language used isn't consistent with how you typically communicate. Kevin was already pulling up my trust documents on his laptop. Mrs. Richardson, this is FBI Cyber Specialist Kevin Park. Can you tell us exactly what was requested? Complete liquidation of all assets, approximately $2.1 million, to be transferred to a cryptocurrency exchange account. The request claimed Mrs. Chen needed immediate funds for specialized psychiatric treatment in Switzerland. Switzerland, Agent Torres repeated grimly. No extradition treaty for domestic crimes. Mrs. Richardson, I said, please tell me you didn't approve the transfer. Of course not. But Mrs. Chen, there's something else. The person who submitted these documents also provided what appeared to be court orders declaring you mentally incompetent. We're required by law to investigate such claims, which means your access to the trust assets has been temporarily frozen pending verification. Mark had found a way to lock me out of my own inheritance while simultaneously trying to steal it. Even if we caught him, he positioned himself to claim I was too unstable to manage my own finances. Agent Torres's radio crackled with an update from Bend. Agent Torres, we've secured the child. Emma Chen appears physically unharmed but is extremely confused and asking repeatedly for someone named Nice Sarah to come back. Nice Sarah? I repeated. Julie's voice came through my phone. That's what she's been calling the woman who brought her here. She keeps saying Nice Sarah promised to come back for her once sick Sarah was better. Mark had found an impersonator so convincing that my own daughter couldn't tell the difference, and had trained Emma to see me as the dangerous version of myself. My phone buzzed with one final message from Mark. The trust freeze should hold for at least 6 months while the courts sort out your competency. Plenty of time for Emma to adjust to her new reality. Don't worry, Sarah, I'll make sure she grows up knowing her mother loved her, even if that love came with dangerous delusions. But for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something other than despair. Mark had made his first real mistake. He'd involved a licensed attorney who was trained to spot fraud, and he'd left Emma somewhere the FBI could find her. He might have my money temporarily blocked, but I had my daughter back. And now I had the evidence to prove everything. 6 months later, I sat in a packed courtroom watching Mark's carefully constructed world crumble around him. The federal prosecutor had just finished presenting Kevin's digital forensics evidence, 547 pages of documented fraud, impersonation, and systematic psychological abuse spanning 14 months. Your Honor, Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Walsh said, holding up a thick folder. The defendant's own voice recordings detail his premeditated plan to gaslight his wife into a psychiatric facility while stealing her $2.3 million inheritance. He hired professional impersonators, created fraudulent medical records, and manipulated digital evidence on an industrial scale. Mark sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, his expensive lawyer whispering urgently in his ear. Gone was the concerned husband persona he'd maintained for so long. His face was cold, calculating, the real Mark I'd glimpsed only briefly during our marriage. Furthermore, Walsh continued, the defendant's cryptocurrency transactions show payments totaling $73,000 to various accomplices, including a woman who impersonated Mrs. Chen to manipulate family members and create false alibis. The impersonator, whose real name was Rebecca Martinez, had been arrested in Vancouver trying to cross into the U.S. with fake identification. She'd given prosecutors detailed testimony about Mark's recruitment methods and the extensive briefings he'd provided about my personal history, mannerisms, and relationships. Dr. Martinez sat behind me in the gallery, having testified earlier about the psychological impact of systematic gaslighting. The defendant's manipulation was so comprehensive, she'd told the court, that he succeeded in making his victim doubt her own memory and perception of reality. Emma squeezed my hand as the prosecutor continued. At 8 years old now, she was still working with a child psychologist to process what had happened, but she no longer flinched when I walked into a room or asked for Daddy to protect her from me. The deprogramming had taken months, but my little girl was finally coming back to herself. Jake, now 7, sat on my other side drawing pictures of dinosaurs, his latest obsession. He bounced back faster than Emma, though he still sometimes asked why Daddy had to go away for being mean to Mama. The defendant's scheme, Walsh was saying, represents one of the most sophisticated cases of domestic financial abuse our office has prosecuted. He systematically isolated Mrs. Chen from support systems, manipulated her digital footprint to create false evidence of mental instability, and recruited multiple accomplices to impersonate her and provide fraudulent testimony. Julie sat behind us, tears streaming down her face. She'd testified earlier about how convincing the impersonator had been, how Mark had spent months priming her to believe I was having a breakdown. He called me every few weeks, she'd said, always worried about Sarah, always building this narrative that she was falling apart. The judge, the Honorable Diana Foster, had listened to 3 days of testimony with increasing visible disgust. Now she leaned forward, fixing Mark with a withering stare. Mr. Chen, I've been on this bench for 22 years, and I have never seen such a calculated campaign of psychological terrorism against a family member. You attempted to steal your wife's inheritance, destroy her mental health, and permanently separate her from her children, all while positioning yourself as the concerned victim. Mark's lawyer stood to speak, but Judge Foster held up her hand. The evidence shows premeditation spanning over a year, financial losses exceeding $2 million, and severe psychological trauma to minor children. This court finds you guilty on all counts: wire fraud, identity theft, interstate kidnapping, conspiracy to commit financial crimes, and aggravated domestic abuse. She paused, letting the words sink in. I hereby sentence you to 15 years in federal prison, followed by 10 years supervised probation with no contact provisions regarding the victims. Additionally, you will pay full restitution of $2,847,000 covering Mrs. Chen's legal fees, therapy costs, and punitive damages. The gavel came down with finality. As the bailiff led Mark away, he turned back toward our section one final time. For just a moment, I saw something flicker across his face, not remorse, but cold fury that his perfect plan had failed. Then he was gone, and for the first time in 2 years, I could breathe freely. Outside the courthouse, Richardson and Associates had already restored my access to Mom's trust. Emma and Jake were enrolled in a new school district where no one knew our story. I'd started seeing Dr. Martinez regularly, not because I was unstable, but because healing from systematic psychological abuse takes time and professional support. That night, as I tucked my children into bed in our new apartment, Emma looked up at me with clear, trusting eyes. Mama, are we safe now? Yes, sweetheart, I said, kissing her forehead. We're safe. And we're going to be okay. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I truly believed it.